So today's topic, as I alluded to before, is hot flashes and menopause and other associated symptoms: vaginal dryness, insomnia, headaches, mood swings, fatigue, low libido. And did I say hot flashes? Yeah, those hot flashes are signs and symptoms and things we're going to talk about today. What you can do about it, why it's caused, and how to get rid of those problems. And even how to prevent them. If you're not menopausal yet, this still applies to you. And if you are a husband or a boyfriend of somebody who is not gone through menopause yet, you should pay attention also, so you can help them get that information to prepare themselves for menopause. Because if you're prepared for menopause, you may be one of those 20% of women that goes through menopause without symptoms, without hot flashes, and without those other symptoms I talked about before. And it's hard for some people to believe it, but it's true. There are women, about 20% of women go through menopause without a symptom at all, and they feel like everything is fine and everybody else is just a bunch of big complainers. So the numbers are 60% of women who are menopausal will go through hot flashes and associated symptoms for the next 1 to 5 years. So 1 to 5 years you can live through those hot flashes and night sweats and not be able to sleep. 20% of women will go through those symptoms forever, for the rest of their lives. And can you blame some people for being moody if they're going through all those things? I guess we probably shouldn't blame them because they're suffering. And then that leaves 20%. What about the other 20%? Why aren't they suffering? How are they getting through this without having any issues? That's what we're going to talk about today. So physiologically, this is how the process is supposed to work. In your brain, you have a portion of the brain called the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus is kind of like the master control center. And it controls most hormones, it controls temperature regulation, it controls most things that are, see a bunch of thumbs up, thank you. Most symptoms and most things you don't have to think about, right? You don't have to think about what your temperature is, you don't have to think about what many of your physiological functions are. So the hypothalamus has that job. And in a woman who is before menopause or premenopausal, the hypothalamus sends a message down to the ovaries and tells the ovaries it is time to secrete an egg. And women have a couple hundred eggs, I think it's around 400 eggs. And 1 month an egg will come out of one ovary, and the next month it'll come out of the other one, and it's all orchestrated by that hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus talks to the ovary will secrete an egg, the egg will be released, and the message will be sent then to the adrenal glands, who are also making estrogen and progesterone. And once that message is sent, it goes right back up to the brain, tells the brain that all the hormones have been secreted the right way, and the circuit is complete. And when the circuit is complete, the hypothalamus is satisfied, and it waits till next month and does the same exact thing. So hypothalamus, ovaries, adrenals, and back. That's the way that it's supposed to work in that cycle. So the ovaries do make estrogen and progesterone, but so do the adrenal glands. They make the same hormones. So they're a really important player in this. So the balance of these hormones is really important, because we probably all know cycling females who are in their cycle who suffer before and after their period. Balance of hormones is really, really important. And it's just as important after menopause as well. So it's not necessarily the amount of hormone, it's really more so the balance. So in that cascade, we have those adrenal glands we talked about before. Well, the ovaries, when you're menopausal, have now decided that it's time for them to stop working. They're retiring. They've gone through their life, and they are just ready to sit back and take it easy and retire. So when that happens, ideally speaking, the body goes from the hypothalamus down to the ovaries, who are retired, they're not doing their thing anymore, up to the adrenals, and then the adrenals make the sufficient hormone that we need, albeit it's going to be less hormone than it was before because we're not preparing for another child, but the ovaries make the same hormone, and then they send the message up to the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus is then satisfied because it has done that whole loop again, and the satisfaction is key in that balance. But what if the adrenal glands have been working so hard in your whole life, trying to keep up with blood sugar balance and stresses of kids and life and bills and money, what if they want to retire? What if they say, hey, hypothalamus, I'm getting that message, but I'm retiring too. These ovaries have retired. I want to retire too. I can't do it. I can't keep up. I don't have the amount that I need to have. So then that message gets back up to the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus kind of is unsatisfied. The hypothalamus says, wait a second, I didn't hear back from the ovaries and the adrenals. Something's wrong here. So then the hypothalamus says, hey, what's going on down there? It sends another message down, more and more messages for that feedback loop to happen. And when it doesn't happen, that's when we begin to get those signs and symptoms. And if you remember, the hypothalamus does control temperature and many other things. So that's when we get those bursts of heat where you see people fanning themselves and sleeping with the sheets off in complete sweat. The balance has been thrown off. And there are several things that could cause that to happen. We could have too much estrogen. We could have too little estrogen. We could have complete adrenal failure and adrenal fatigue. We could have too little progesterone as well taking place. And there are certain signs and symptoms that go along with this. So me as a functional medicine practitioner, I would look at those symptoms and signs that you have. In fact, I have a sheet that you could ask for. You can email us and ask us for the symptom sheet. And you'll have check marks off of category 1 is this, category 2 is this, category 3 is this. And it's all aimed at us looking at that ratio. It'll give us some hints as to whether we have too much estrogen or too little estrogen, whether we have adrenal fatigue. And we talked about the balance before. You might have a perfect amount of estrogen, but just too little progesterone, which would give us something called estrogen dominance. And some people would think, well, estrogen dominance means I have too much estrogen. Well, not necessarily. It could be that your progesterone is not high enough. So it's that balance is really, really important. So if you want that sheet, ask us, and we can email it to you, and you can get some idea as to which category you fall into. It gives us a good idea. There's also blood tests that we do that give us an idea as well, because treatment for each one of those things is going to be slightly different. But what I want to do for people today who are not patients is to give you some insight as to what you can do on your own without coming in here to be able to decrease your chances of hot flashes and postmenopausal symptoms that we described before. So we always go to diet first, because diet plays a role in everything. And specifically in this situation, blood sugar is really important. So you need to eliminate sugar, we talk about this every single week, and eliminate simple carbohydrates, or at least minimize simple carbohydrates, because these things cause us to have insulin spikes, glucose spikes, because we are eating sugar. We have a spike of glucose, then insulin secreted, then we have a drop of glucose, and a spike and a drop. And these erratic blood sugar levels drive your adrenal glands crazy, and they fatigue them. And if you're not into menopause yet, and you're driving your adrenals crazy, then you're going to be one of those, 80% of women who are going to go through these symptoms. So steady, even glucose is the most important way that we can do that. We do that by actually having a healthy liver, by eating healthy fats, not the polyunsaturated fatty acids. We want to have some good omegas in our diet as well, and adequate protein and low carbohydrate. That's simple. Other things we can do, we can get rid of conventional meats. So if your meats are filled with hormones, they are affecting you. There's studies that show that. You're eating hormone-laden food, like many of the fast food places, and even just conventional meats, then you're messing with that ratio, and there's going to be an improper balance because of that. If you're someone who's eating soy, you should stop eating soy unless it's fermented. If it's fermented soy, that's debatable. But other than fermented soy, you should not eat it. Even though that edamame looks so healthy and so good and shiny and green, throw it in the garbage. They're phytoestrogens. They're going to mess that up as well. We talked about omegas. Cruciferous vegetables. So cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower, go to Google and do a search for cruciferous vegetables and increase those. Have more of those. Those help your liver filter out these excess hormones. It's like a hormone detox by just having those foods in your diet. So I try to force that stuff down my children's throats, and myself and even my spouse, because they're going to help us prevent these problems and these issues. So the most important thing you can do, if you haven't gone into menopause yet, so let's say you're under 45 and you're still cycling, be careful of your sugars, get rid of them, and make sure you eat good fats, healthy fats, avocados and coconuts and olive oil, and adequate protein. And make sure you're not too stressed out. If you are super stressed out, then take a yoga class, take a meditation class, pray if that's what you do. But you have to find some way to calm those adrenals down and not have to be burning themselves out. So they're not going to want to retire, when you're 50. You want them to retire when you're 110. So if you are postmenopausal and you're going through these symptoms, well, we kind of told you what you need to do. Find out if your hormones are unbalanced. And odds are if you're having these symptoms, they are out of balance. Eat the right way and take supplements. The way that they used to treat this was with hormone replacement treatment. So they would give the hormones that would give the message back to the brain so that the hypothalamus would say, oh, okay, I got the message. Thanks for the hormone back. We're good. I have that message. It's a great theory if you want to have other real major problems like cancer, right? Those hormones cause cancer. So you don't want to be taking, replacement therapies, specifically synthetic estrogen replacement therapy, which has been shown to be a complete disaster. So don't do that. The other things that happen if your adrenals aren't working well are going to be belly fat, which we don't want to have. Bone loss, so bone density loss will occur, brain fog. There's a whole host of different symptoms that will occur as well. So the great side effect to living a healthy life and eating the foods that you're supposed to eat and taking the supplements you're supposed to take is that it fixes a lot of issues. And if you notice, if you've been watching each week, you'll notice that the treatment is almost always the same for everybody. We talk about the same fats, we talk about the same foods, we talk about low carbohydrate. So these are things that you should do if you just want to be healthy in general. But if you have these issues of postmenopausal symptoms, then you need to cut out all those bad things and eat the right way and take the right supplements. So what supplements do you take? Well, that's a difficult question, and the reason why it's a difficult question is because we don't know what your ratio problem is. So that is something I can't really tell you what you should take until we really know what your problem is. So if you have questions and you want to have that page I described in the video before, just email us. We can send it to you, and that'll get you started at least to know what your ratio is. If you have questions about your own specific case, then ask for a consultation. We do these all the time with people. That's what we do, and we can help people get rid of hot flashes relatively easily, assuming we know what the problem is. And that's what we do. That's how we specialize and how we fix people. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. I think that's it. Prepare those adrenals and caress those adrenals so that you can get through and not suffer with all these different symptoms. So if you like the video, please push the like button. If you want to watch our videos in the future, then there's a button that you can push that says follow, and you should it should let us know that it should let you know when our next videos are going to be. And if you share this with people, we are going to be entering you into that contest for the TV. And I see some likes on there. Thank you very much. And I appreciate you watching, and hopefully we brought you some value today, and I hope that that life is good for you. So signing off, thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.